Hi everybody, welcome to Module 3. This week we are examining an idea that is useful in psychology, social science, and communication when you're trying to explain how people communicate across difference. And this idea or theory is called the contact hypothesis. And what I'd like to do in this video is give you an overview of what the contact hypothesis is, how it works, and how we are going to think about it in this course. And then I would like you to go on to read the article about the contact hypothesis that I've given you a link to in this module, and also to watch the video about Seeds of Peace, which is an organization that brings young people together to help them better understand each other. When you've looked at this package of things, I'd like you to think about how this hypothesis might help you in your own work and in your own understanding of how people communicate across difference. And we should also continue to think about how we can use these ideas when we ultimately do our project for Dr. Stacy Perriman Clark on how to recruit more students into an African American or African Studies program. How do we reach out to students who might not normally study those topics to arouse their interest and to help them bridge the gap between what's familiar and what might be unfamiliar? Okay, so I want to start by talking a little bit about the contact hypothesis and what that is. The contact hypothesis is a way at looking how putting people who are different together can help reduce prejudice. That's what we're trying to do. You know, we take these people who come from very different backgrounds and we put them together in hopes that an interaction between them is going to reduce apprehension. So the contact hypothesis basically says that we bring people together and it'll reduce prejudice. Now, there are a couple of caveats with this hypothesis. One of those is people tend to self-segregate. You've probably seen this yourself on our campus. People tend to cluster with others who are similar to them in many ways. And there's been kind of a backlash on college campuses with the contact hypothesis. College campuses, admissions departments try to bring in a lot of diverse students with the idea that if we put you in a dorm together and we have you eating in a dining hall together and attending classes together, that you're going to interact with each other and interact successfully, and it'll help reduce prejudice and it'll expose everybody to people who are different from themselves. But it can backfire a little bit. Statistically, some colleges have found that the more diverse their freshman class, the more those people tend to self-segregate. So when we're pushed outside of our comfort range, we can tend to stick to our own kind, whatever that might mean for us. So we have to take this theory and add some caveats to it, or caveats are like it depends statements, okay? And when you read through this, you'll see that there's an idea that these four conditions have to be present in order for the interaction to be effective, okay? And those are equal status, common goals, cooperation, and institutional support. And I would like you to think particularly about that institutional support piece of it. Because what that is saying is that if you're going to bring in a bunch of diverse people into a schoolroom or a workplace, the institution has to support that interaction and facilitate positive interaction in order for it to take place. It's not going to happen place just organically if you throw all these people in the same room. So an organization needs to facilitate it. So for example, Western Michigan University might bring in a lot of diverse students and put them all in a dorm together, But unless there's authority figures facilitating interaction among those people, it might not happen organically. That's what the institutional support piece of that refers to. So you might have seen this happen in your own life, in your living space or in your workplace, where if the organization is not supportive of diversity and inclusion initiatives in a very active way, sometimes they don't have much effectiveness. So keep that institutional support piece in mind. It's very important that the organization is encouraging of diversity initiatives. So I'd like you to read that article about the contact hypothesis. See what you think about it. See if you think that just putting people together is enough, because that is an argument on one side of this, or if you think that those 4 conditions, especially the institutional support element, are vital to it being successful. I'd like to hear about your experience in that, and I'd like you to think about that. You can email me if you want. You don't have to. It's not a graded assignment this week, but you do want to study this and take some good notes because it will show up on an exam later. Now, the next piece of this, after you have listened to this video and you have read the article, is to watch the Seeds of Peace video. That is an organization that is using these ideas really effectively. And if you're not familiar with Seeds of Peace, it's an organization that brings youth, young people, teenagers, together in summer camp settings to interact with each other. And they bring in kids that are from all over the world and are from different regions of the world that are in conflict. So for example, you might have Israeli kids and Palestinian kids coming to camp together at the same time. And they do normal summer camp things, but they also have these facilitated discussion sessions about conflict and about what they have been taught about their so-called enemy and what their enemy has been taught about them. And it's kind of a deprogramming of prejudice. And the idea is that when these kids are done with their camp sessions and they go back to their home countries, they will be seeds of peace in the world. And this organization has been running for many years and has done these camps with lots of different groups. They've done, as I said, Israeli and Palestinian kids. They've done Indian and Pakistani kids, different regions of the world where there's conflict. And the idea is that young people, teenagers, are looking for answers in the world, and they want to understand these conflicts, and they are learning how to think critically. And so it's a really good time to bring them together for these discussions. Now, is it a perfect scenario? Not really, because number one, these kids, it's a self-selected group, right? These young people have support from their families and from their home countries to come to this camp. And they're there because they want to be there and they're interested. So you do have kind of a self-selected, self-motivated group. But the idea is that they'll be able to tell people about their experience there and what they learned. And you'll notice in the video too that this organization also provides support for other kinds of organizations who are trying to facilitate these interactions across difference. So the Seeds of Peace organization is a great example of that institutional support element of the contact hypothesis. They're not just bringing people together and hoping something will happen organically. They're bringing them together and having facilitated, structured discussion sessions and activities that are purposeful in order to facilitate better understanding with these groups. So Look over all the material in this module. Join us for our interview with Dr. Stacy Perryman Clark on Friday, if you possibly can. Um, and continue to think about all of these things that you've learned so far, about how adults learn, how adults need to be self-motivated, the different learning styles I've talked about, the definitions of diversity and inclusion that we've grappled with, and now this idea of the contact hypothesis. Continue to ruminate all that and try to put it together, tear it apart, see how it comes together for you, because these concepts are all going to be useful to us as we continue in the semester. Okay, I wish you a really wonderful week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.